What happens when a young boy looks at a judge and says, "You're my mom"? The entire courtroom gasps in disbelief, and the judge freezes. How could this be? Who is this boy? And why would he say such a thing? What follows is a shocking revelation that no one saw coming. You won't believe how this unexpected moment turns everything upside down. Stay tuned, because this story is about to change the lives of everyone in that room. Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. The courtroom is packed with people, and you can almost feel the tension in the air. But it's not the usual kind of tension, where everyone is waiting for a verdict or a sentence. No, this is something completely different. The judge, a woman known for her strict demeanor and no-nonsense attitude, sits at the bench, her eyes scanning the room. Her name is Judge Harris, and she has been in the game for a long time. She's seen it all, or so she thinks. On the other side of the room, a young boy named Malik stands, clutching a piece of paper, looking small and nervous. His clothes are a bit worn, and there's a quiet sadness in his eyes. But there's something else there too, something powerful, something that no one can see coming. Malik's story isn't one of crime or violence. He's not here for anything that would explain why he's standing in front of the judge. No, Malik is in this courtroom because of a different kind of question, one that makes everyone pause. Why is this boy looking at Judge Harris like that? And why in a split second does he say the words, "You're my mom"? The courtroom falls silent. Judge Harris raises an eyebrow, her mind racing as she tries to understand what's happening. Everyone is watching, waiting for something to unfold, but no one knows what it will be. The room is dead silent after Malik's words. "You're my mom?" Judge Harris repeats, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she's trying to process what just happened. The entire courtroom is still, every eye glued to the young boy standing before her. He looks nervous but also determined. There's a tension in the air that no one can ignore. Judge Harris shifts in her seat, trying to keep her professional composure. She looks over at the defense attorney, then back at Malik. "Young man, I believe you've made a mistake," she says, her tone sharp but controlled. But Malik doesn't back down. His eyes lock with hers, unwavering. "No, Judge Harris, you're my mom. You just don't remember me," Malik says again, his voice gaining strength. The words are strange, almost unbelievable, but there's something in his voice that makes everyone in the courtroom pause. There's no defiance, no anger, just calm, unshakable certainty. The judge blinks, a flash of recognition flickering in her eyes before she quickly masks it. "I think you're confused. I've never seen you before in my life," she says, her tone still firm, but starting to waver slightly. The courtroom murmurs, whispers filling the space. This wasn't the usual case. This wasn't the usual tension. Malik's hands are clenched at his sides, but he stays calm. He knows what he's about to say could change everything. "I know you don't remember me. I was just a baby when they took me from you," he says, his voice quiet but steady. "But I never forgot you, Judge Harris. I've been looking for you all these years." The courtroom goes completely still again. Even the stenographer seems to hesitate, unsure whether to keep typing. It's like the air itself is holding its breath. Judge Harris's face goes pale, her expression unreadable. But inside, something is stirring. Memories, old memories that she'd buried long ago, start to resurface. She feels a pit in her stomach, the weight of his words pressing on her. "What are you saying exactly?" she finally manages to ask, her voice lower now, almost a whisper. Malik takes a deep breath. "I was taken from you when I was just a baby. You didn't know it, but I've been trying to find you my entire life. I thought maybe being in front of you today, in this courtroom, was the best way to do it. I knew you'd be here." Judge Harris's eyes widen. She looks around the room, trying to find the words, but none come. She clears her throat, looking down at the papers in front of her. She starts flipping through them, her hands trembling slightly. This is impossible," she murmurs, half to herself. But Malik steps forward, his voice steady. "It's not impossible. I'm your son, Judge Harris. You gave me up, and I was adopted by a family who gave me a good life. But I never forgot you. I never stopped wondering where you were." The courtroom is in chaos now, the whispers growing louder. The judge's reputation, her career, everything she's built, feels like it's crumbling before her eyes. People start turning to each other, exchanging glances, unsure of what to believe. Was this a story? A lie? Or was this the truth? Judge Harris looks down at the table, her hands gripping the edges, her knuckles white. Her whole body trembles as the truth she's been running from starts to break through. The guilt, the pain, everything she thought she had buried is now on display for everyone to see. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The silence is suffocating, heavy, as everyone in the room waits for the judge to speak. Finally, she lifts her head, her eyes now wet with tears. The wall she had built up for so many years seems to be crumbling in front of her. Malik, she begins, but her voice cracks. I didn't know. I thought I lost you forever. Malik's eyes soften, and for the first time, the judge sees him for who he truly is. Not just a stranger in her courtroom, but a part of her past that she never thought she would have to face. I've been waiting for this moment, Judge, Malik says, his voice trembling. I've been waiting for you to remember, for you to finally see me. The judge stands up from her seat, the weight of the moment heavy on her shoulders. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but her legs feel weak. She looks out at the courtroom, all eyes on her now, the weight of her past and her future hanging in the balance. I need to go. I need to think, she says quietly before walking out of the courtroom, leaving the stunned audience behind. The tension in the room lingers long after the judge leaves. No one knows what will happen next, but they all know that this moment has changed everything. The courtroom is still in chaos. The door has barely closed behind Judge Harris as she left, but the room hasn't settled. Whispers fill the air, people exchanging looks, some stunned, some uncertain, trying to process what just happened. Malik stands there, his face calm but his eyes filled with a depth of emotion that's hard to describe. He's waited so long for this moment. He isn't about to back down now, but what happens next is nothing like he imagined. The defense attorney, clearly trying to regain control of the room, stands up and clears his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, we all heard what the young man just said, he says, trying to gain a foothold in the conversation. But we need to understand that this is highly irregular, and before he can continue, Malik speaks up, his voice cutting through the tension. It's not irregular. It's the truth. You've all seen what's happened, haven't you? The room quiets once again. It's as if the breath has been sucked out of it. Every eye is on Malik, and now even the defense attorney doesn't seem so sure of his ground. I don't think you understand, young man, the attorney continues, his voice wavering now. You're accusing a sitting judge of something very serious, something that could change everything. You need to be sure of what you're saying. Malik takes a step forward, his expression unwavering. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I've waited years for this. You don't think I've spent every single day wondering who she was, where she went? I've lived with this for far too long to back down now. His words hang in the air, thick with intensity. The room is still, except for the occasional shuffle from the audience, as if no one can believe what's happening. The prosecutor, who's been sitting quietly in the background, stands up now. Let's not forget, we're in a courtroom, she says, trying to regain control. And we have laws and procedures. This isn't a matter of emotions, it's a matter of what's right. But Malik's voice is firm, his body language determined. And what's right now, is for you all to stop pretending like this doesn't matter. This woman, your judge, she's my mother. She gave me up when I was a baby, and I'm not leaving this room until you all realize that. The prosecutor falters, clearly taken aback. She looks to the judge's empty seat, then back at Malik. Her confidence slips. She's trying to make sense of what's happening, but her words seem hollow now. This isn't something that's been proven, she stammers, but even she can tell her argument is weak now. We don't have enough evidence. This is highly unusual. That's exactly why you should listen, Malik presses. This is what happens when people in power think they can hide behind their position. They think no one will challenge them. They think their secrets are safe. The room is electric now. The audience is leaning forward, hanging on every word, and Malik's words strike like daggers. He isn't angry. He's not ranting. He's speaking the truth, his tone calm, yet resolute. He's taking control of the room in a way no one expected. A long silence falls after that. Even the stenographer stops typing, and the reporters in the back stop scribbling, staring at Malik. It's a moment of reckoning. Malik takes another deep breath, his voice quieter now but still full of power. I didn't want to expose her like this. I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But after all these years, I have to do this. I need to be heard. The silence feels suffocating. The people in the room have never felt such raw emotion before. Malik isn't asking for anyone's sympathy, but somehow he's commanding it. For the first time, the people in the room are seeing the weight of his words. The judge may have been the one with the power in the room, but in this moment, Malik has taken it all. And then, without warning, the door opens again. Everyone's eyes snap toward the door, expecting Judge Harris to return. Instead, it's another officer, one who was waiting outside. He strides into the room, holding something in his hand. His face is serious, almost grim. The room stills even more. "What's going on?" someone whispers in the back. The officer doesn't answer, just walks up to the judge's empty seat and places a file on the desk. The courtroom is tense as the officer begins speaking, but what he says next changes everything. "Your Honor," the officer says, looking at the empty seat where Judge Harris had been moments ago, "the documents you requested have been verified. This young man's claims have been confirmed." Gasps echo through the room. The whispers begin again, louder this time, as everyone realizes that Malik's words were not just emotional, they were true. The officer looks at the audience, then back at Malik. "Malik Williams," he continues, "you are correct. We have verified the records. Judge Harris is indeed your mother. The adoption records were sealed, and it's been kept a secret for years, but it's all here." The room goes quiet again. No one knows what to say. Malik's expression doesn't change, but there's a flicker of something in his eyes, relief maybe, or even triumph. This is the moment he's waited for his entire life. Finally, the defense attorney, now visibly shaken, speaks up. This is completely unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this. What does this mean for the case? What happens now?" But Malik, still calm, still collected, looks around at the shocked faces in the room. "It means that the truth has been revealed," he says softly, "and it means that there's nothing left to hide." The entire courtroom is left in stunned silence. No one knows how to respond. Malik's words have shaken the foundations of this trial, of everything they believed they knew about Judge Harris. As the silence stretches on, Malik stands tall. He's made his point. The judge is no longer in control. The truth has been exposed, and there's no going back. The entire courtroom is silent, almost as if the air itself has become thick, and everyone is waiting for something to happen. The officer's words had just dropped like a bombshell, confirming everything Malik had said. The secret that no one knew had been uncovered in the most dramatic way possible. For years, Judge Harris had been living her life with the knowledge that Malik was her son, but no one ever knew, not even the other officials. Malik stands still, not showing any sign of triumph, but with a sense of finality. His heartbeat is loud in his ears as the magnitude of the moment settles in. Everything he had ever suspected, everything he had lived with in secret, was now exposed for the world to see. The courtroom is filled with uncertainty, whispers breaking out again as people try to make sense of what they've just heard. The defense attorney stammers, clearly taken aback. "This can't be possible. You can't just come in here and accuse a judge of such things. This is an outrageous claim." He turns to the officer for validation, but the officer only stands there, stone-faced. "Mr. Williams's claim has been verified," the officer repeats, his voice unwavering. "There's no mistake. The records are clear. The documents have been verified." The defense attorney's face turns pale as he processes the words. All of a sudden, the man who had been so confident, so certain that his arguments were rock solid, finds himself cornered by the truth. His arguments fall apart in the face of reality. Malik, who had been standing quietly watching the scene unfold, finally speaks again. His voice is calm but filled with conviction. "This is the truth," he says, his eyes moving across the room. "My mother was the one who hid this from me. She gave me up, and for years I wondered why. Now I know the truth, and I won't let it be hidden anymore." His words ripple through the room, making even the most skeptical of people stop and think. The weight of his statement, the raw emotion behind it, is impossible to ignore. Malik's words are a reminder that power can be abused and that the truth, no matter how painful, will always find its way out. There's a long silence after that. Everyone in the room seems to be processing the shock of it all. Even the judge's loyal supporters are quiet, unsure of what to think. How could they defend someone who had been hiding something so fundamental? The prosecutor, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly stands up. She glances between Malik and the defense attorney, unsure of what to do. She turns toward the judge's empty chair, now realizing that the integrity of the entire trial has been compromised. "Your Honor, what does this mean for the case?" she asks, her voice filled with tension. But the courtroom is already shifting. The spotlight is no longer on the case. It's on Judge Harris, whose absence from the bench speaks volumes. The fact that she's not there to answer for herself is almost deafening. The truth has already spoken, and the audience, the jury, and even the lawyers can no longer deny it. Malik steps forward, his presence commanding. "This is bigger than any trial," he says, looking straight into the eyes of the people in the room. "This is about what's right, about truth, and about accountability. I may be her son, but I am also someone who believes in justice. And justice means exposing the truth." The tension in the room escalates. Everyone is on edge now, not knowing what comes next, but knowing that nothing will ever be the same. The defense attorney tries to recover, but his words sound empty. His strategy, based on the assumption that the truth would remain hidden, has crumbled before his eyes. Malik's eyes shift to the jury. "What will you do now?" he asks, his voice steady. "What will you do now that you know the truth?" One of the jurors stands up, visibly shaken. "This is unbelievable," she mutters, and her words seem to echo in the room. "How could we have known?" "Exactly," Malik replies, looking around. "How could any of you have known? That's the point. We live in a system where those in power think they can keep secrets. But secrets don't stay hidden forever." His words are like a spark in a dry field, lighting up the hearts of those in the room. The truth is out now, and there's no going back. The walls of power, of control, have started to crumble. It's not just about Malik anymore. It's about the system, about the lies, and about what happens when people who are supposed to protect us betray us instead. And then, as if to confirm everything Malik has said, a final twist occurs. The officer who had initially presented the documents turns toward the crowd. "There's more," he says, his voice grave. "The investigation into Judge Harris is ongoing. We've uncovered other cases of judicial misconduct. This is only the beginning." Gasps fill the courtroom. The room falls silent, the full weight of what's happening settling in. This is bigger than just Malik's story. It's about the truth being revealed on a massive scale. And the implications? They are far-reaching. Malik's eyes never leave the officer as he processes the new information. His jaw clenches, but he doesn't let the emotions show on his face. This is what he wanted. Justice. The truth. It wasn't just about his personal pain. It was about changing the system for good. "You see," Malik says, looking around the room once more, "the truth has a way of coming out. No one can stop it, no matter how hard they try, no matter how powerful they think they are. It will always find its way." And as he stands there, the room begins to stir, the murmur of people talking amongst themselves rising in volume. The weight of the revelation, the depth of the truth that has been exposed, is enough to shake the very foundations of the courtroom. The officer begins reading off more findings, and it becomes clear. The web of corruption is much larger than anyone had imagined. The room is stunned, but Malik's expression softens just a little. He knows that while this moment may be over, it's only just the beginning of something much bigger. As the courtroom buzzed with the aftermath of the revelations, the weight of the moment began to sink in. People were talking, the reporters were scribbling down every word, and the officials were hurriedly discussing what came next. But for Malik, the shock and chaos of the moment were beginning to fade. He knew that this wasn't just about his story anymore. It was about something much bigger, an opportunity for real change. Malik's life had changed dramatically in a matter of moments. What began as a simple quest for the truth had turned into something far larger. The once quiet boy who had been ignored, cast aside and treated as invisible, was now at the center of a story that was shaking the entire judicial system. As he walked out of the courtroom, he felt a mix of emotions: relief, pride, and yes, a lingering sadness. Sadness because while the truth had been exposed, it had come at a cost. His mother's life, his family's history, and the very foundation of their world had been altered in an instant. But in that moment, as he walked through the hallway, Malik also realized something important. He had never been alone in this fight. Not really. He had had the support of those who believed in him, and now he had the whole world's attention. He felt a weight lifted off his shoulders, a burden he didn't even know he had, released with each step he took. He thought about the years he had spent searching for answers, wondering why he had never been able to connect the dots. He thought about the long nights, the frustration, the feelings of being unseen. But today, those feelings seemed so distant. What he had been searching for had finally found him. The truth was, he had always known who he was. He had always believed in the power of justice, even when it seemed out of reach. But now, seeing it unfold in front of him, knowing that his actions had sparked something larger, made him realize the value of standing up, of using his voice, of refusing to let the world decide his worth. And yet, even as the system was cracking, Malik knew that it wasn't all done. The battle had just begun. The judge's arrest was only the first step. There would be more work ahead. There would be more obstacles. The truth had to be followed by action, accountability. Malik couldn't rest on his laurels. Not now. Not when so many still needed to see real change. Walking back home that evening, Malik reflected on everything that had happened. The pain of his past still lingered, but it wasn't the thing that defined him anymore. What mattered now was the future. He had a new sense of purpose, a sense that his story wasn't just his own. It was a story of everyone who had been wronged, everyone who had been overlooked, dismissed, or forgotten. The sun began to set as Malik stood by the window, looking out at the horizon. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of peace. The world felt a little less heavy on his shoulders, a little more hopeful. He wasn't just a boy fighting for his own justice anymore. He was fighting for something larger. He was fighting for the future. And that, Malik realized, was the most important thing he could do. The room felt a little brighter as Malik's reflection settled in. There was a stillness to the moment, a quiet that spoke volumes. The world may have tried to break him down, but in the end, he had found something that couldn't be taken away. His voice, his truth, and his unshakable belief that, no matter what, he would never back down. In the days that followed, Malik's story spread like wildfire. The phone calls came in, the media showed up, and the world began to understand. His journey wasn't over, but the first chapter had ended. He had taken a stand, and the world was listening. The weeks that followed the courtroom drama were a blur. Malik had become a symbol of justice, resilience, and the quiet power of standing up when no one else does. The media coverage was intense, and the world seemed to finally take notice. His life had changed forever, but deep down, Malik knew that the most important change hadn't been the attention or the accolades. It had been the change within himself. He had always been a quiet force, someone who believed in doing the right thing, even when it was hard. But now he had seen the power of his own actions, and that was something no one could ever take from him. As he walked back home one evening, the sun sinking behind him, he thought about everything he had learned. He thought about the power of truth, the importance of standing up for others, and the knowledge that change wasn't just something you waited for. It was something you made happen. And for the first time in a long time, Malik felt like he wasn't fighting alone. The world was behind him, and the voices that had once been silenced were now being heard. But what about you? Have you ever experienced a moment when everything changed? When you stood up for yourself or someone else, and everything felt different after? Malik's journey is just one story, but there are countless others out there. Stories of resilience, of overcoming obstacles, and of pushing for justice when it feels impossible. Let us know your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment that changed everything for you? Maybe it was a small act, maybe it was a big one, but every change starts somewhere. Drop your stories in the comments below, and let's talk about how we can make our voices heard. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories of unexpected heroes. You won't believe what happens next when another truth is revealed in the most unexpected way.